Hi, I'm Grant Tate. I'm CEO of The Bridge Ltd. in Charlottesville, Virginia. Today, I'd like to give you an overview of the personal and group assessments that we use as part of our coaching process and also to work with teams of people in companies or other organizations. The ones we use can consist of three parts: a DISC test, a values index, and an attribute index. And let me take the time to go through each of these in detail. The assessment process generally emphasizes two elements of personal success. One is self-awareness, and the second is authenticity. And through hundreds of thousands of these tests, Intermetrics, the company that provides these tests to us, has found that understanding yourself and then finding the job that matches your particular strengths are important links to reaching your personal goals. The process is pretty simple. We provide a link to the participant. That participant goes online to answer a questionnaire, and then the participant, if it's an executive that is hiring the person, and I receive a detailed report. The participant reads the report, then I review the results with the participant, and then I review the results with an executive if an executive is involved. If no third person is involved, of course, it just stops with the participant. But before we take the test or administer the test, we have agreement all around as to who can see the individual assessment. Let's take a look at DISC. The DISC measures four elements of how a person likes to work. How decisive are they? How well they like to interact with other people? Are they a stabilizing influence, and how do they relate to changes? And how cautious are they? Here are some of the words that describe each of those. So a person extremely high in decisiveness might be demanding, whereas somebody extremely low would be unobtrusive. Likewise, you see the words across all four of these elements. So then the test gives us two different graphs as an output. In this particular case, you see that this individual is very high in decisiveness, relatively high in interactive, not so high in stability, and very low in cautious. And this is the natural style. This is the style the person would prefer to use given the total freedom of action. The adaptive style shows the style that the person is actually using in that person's real life. When we look at changes, how often do these change? The adaptive style can change quite rapidly. For instance, somebody who's changing jobs. The natural style tends to be much more slow to change. So in a case like this, you would expect the person to be very decisive, even impulsive, and relatively low in caution. In the opposite case, if somebody's low in decisiveness and high in caution, they would be looking for more information every time they need to make a decision. Backing up these graphs, however, there are a lot of additional pages that describe elements of the style and how those four elements work together. So it provides an overview of the natural style pattern, looking at the primary attributes of that particular style. It provides ideas for being more effective of that particular style. It also gives strength-based insights, which are some of the main strengths of such a person, and then suggests some areas for continual improvement. These are just a few of the many pages that go into details that can help a person understand their own style of working and also indicate what their strengths are and also areas that they might want to improve. The second test, the values assessment, looks at 7 major indicators of how a person is motivated. And these are the aesthetic, economic, individualistic, political, altruistic, regulatory, and theoretical. And in this case, you see that this person is high in individualistic, political, and theoretical. And taking those in reverse order, a high theoretical index would indicate that the person likes to learn, learns quite rapidly, and is looking to seek information very much in day-to-day life, perhaps. Political is how the person likes to work in a group, and is in this case likely to exert more power in a group. And individualistic is how the person would work individually or is willing to stand up for him or herself. This person is relatively low in economic, which is how much they like to be rewarded, either in economic terms or in other types of recognition. And aesthetic is form and beauty. And so someone who's high in aesthetic might be an artist, or they might be somebody who likes elegant solutions. The lines that you see on the chart, the center line in each case, is the mean of everybody who's ever taken the test, and the other two lines are a standard deviation on each side of that. Generally, when we debrief this test, we spend a lot of time looking at the top indicators, and these would be the major elements that would motivate this person and how they do work. This test also provides a lot of detail with each of the indicators that tells us more detail, the general traits you could expect from this person, what the key strengths are, what are some of the motivational insights that would help in working with the person, and how they like to learn, and something that would help in their training. The third test is called the attribute index. This is the more complex of the three tests. It looks at three dimensions of thought. Dr. Hartman, the person who invented this test many years ago, said there are three ways to look at something. They call them intrinsic, extrinsic, and systemic. In the intrinsic way of looking at things, this would be valuing something for what it is. I value my grandmother's chair because it has an emotional value to me. The extrinsic is more a comparison, which is to say that with my grandmother's chair, I may love it, but it's not as comfortable as others. And systemic is concepts and ideas of how it all fits together with a major system. So in my grandmother's chair case, it might not be comfortable, but it might be a really good antique. And so when a person takes this test, then we do get a discussion of what the patterns mean, but it provides us then with a series of 6 indicators, both external and internal. It also, as you see circled in the upper right of this, the test generates a validity index, which gives us an indication of whether the person tried to fake it or had some difficulty with the test. So it measures empathy, which is how a person reacts to other people and how sensitive they are to the feelings of other people. Practical thinking, just what it says, the focus on getting things done. Systems judgment is the long-range integrative view. And then on the internal side, you see self-esteem and self-belief, role awareness, and self-direction. And using the intrinsic, extrinsic, and systemic indicators, empathy is intrinsic, practical thinking is the extrinsic, and systems judgment is the systemic, which is just basically test speak. But when we look at this is an indicator of how sensitive a person is to people. Are they practically oriented, and do they like to spend time on getting things done? And how well are they dealing with complexity of systems? So in this case, you would see that this person is stronger in practical thinking and systems judgment than in sensitivity to people. And this doesn't mean the person isn't really sensitive to people, but it might take this person a little more time. So the graph gives us an indication of how the person would react in what we call a high velocity situation. The test also provides a list of 70 individual attributes that make up those tests, ranked from high score to lowest score. And when we debrief this test, we can look at these indicators and find out what the test thinks the person is particularly strong in, and those things that might need some more work. And then we can customize this test into a variety of different elements. And for instance, these other elements come out in one of the tests. It looks at concrete organization, integrative ability, practical thinking, positive thinking, and results orientation. In other words, we can sort those 70 items into different graphical indicators to give us some idea how the person would react in a particular job. Bottom line is we can customize this test to individual jobs. Each test provides its own report, but during the interviews, we provide cross-test interpretations. In other words, we look for elements of each test that are confirmed also by the others. Not often, but sometimes we do see contradictions. That gives us a chance to talk through those contradictions with the person taking the test, and also can give us some additional insight into how the person might work or respond to different situations. We also use the test results for teams. And in this case, we give the test to each individual in the team, and then we prepare graphs to compare the profile of the team. Here's an example. This is a disk index of the management team of a company, and you see that they are relatively low in caution overall, and they have one person who is a strong deviate on the caution indicator. The team is also relatively low in interactive, so you might expect this to be the profile of a scientific type company that focuses most on getting things done and scientific elements rather than the people element. Now, if you look at the profile of the team values, and if you look here at the management team on the left, you see that they're relatively low on the economic indicator, strange for a commercial company, but very high on the theoretical scale. When you look at their staff on the right-hand side, you see a different profile, with some peaking high on the altruistic scale. So we can use these to talk through with teams how the different people, what kind of profiles they have, and also discuss the different styles of work among the team. Likewise, we can look at the attribute index in a graphical form and talk about different styles in the team in that sense as well. And so that briefly is an overview of the testing scheme, and how we use these are in multiple ways. If a person wants to learn more about themselves and learn about their strengths and weaknesses, then we can conduct the test on an individual basis, and we usually have a debriefing session of 1.5 to 2 hours following the test. As part of an organization, some organizations choose to test all of their people, and in that case, we debrief each individual, and if agreed upon by both the person taking the test and the manager or executive requesting the test, then we review the results with the executive as well. And sometimes that might be a 2 or 3 way conversation. When we use it in a team base, many times we put the relevant test output in envelopes with a person's name, and we have someone else in the group pick up that envelope, and each person gets someone else's envelopes, and then we compare notes. And that kind of session generally is a full day workshop, but turns out to be a very revealing discussion and a strong basis for stronger team interaction. So that provides a quick overview. If you need more information, feel free to email me or call me. These my email and telephone number are here on this slide. 434-466-4655 is my telephone number, and my email is grant, Grant, at thebridge-ltd.com. Thank you very much for your attention.